What's up, YouTube? In this video, we're gonna make this homepage using HTML and CSS. It's gonna be a longer video. I was gonna break it into two parts, with one being the HTML, two being the CSS. But I figured since I'm gonna have multiple videos in this series anyways, I'll just keep the HTML and CSS all in one video, and we can move on from there. So by the end of this video, you will have this homepage working. We use a lot of Flexbox, a lot of just basic HTML and CSS. I do go fast, so you should have some basic knowledge of HTML and CSS before diving into the video. But honestly, if you don't, you'll be fine. Just pause, rewind if you have to. But yeah, like I said, by the end of this video, you will have this homepage. So that's the goal. But for the next video, we will talk about responsiveness and mobile design and media queries, because if you look at it on an iPad, things start looking a little weird. They don't look the best, and then on a mobile, they just look totally unviewable. So this video, all the HTML, CSS to get this look right here on a desktop. The next video will be media queries and responsiveness. The third video in this series will be talking about animations and transitions, adding some jQuery, some JavaScript in there, so when you scroll down to a certain point, things fade in, or having, like hovers on the nav bars and things like that. And then if there's like a fourth or fifth video, we will, maybe make this contact form working. We'll add some other pages here, because right now, it's just the home page. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something in this video. If you enjoy it, drop a like, subscribe. Definitely leave me a comment. Let me know what you like about the video, what you didn't like about the video. I've never made a video like this before, but I do plan to make a lot more like this in the future. So your feedback is appreciated. But without further ado, let's just dive right into the code. And yeah, let's get into it. I'm gonna start off by just deleting all of my code. Feels bad, it hurts. Save it, and we're good to go. If we look at our page, we have nothing. So I do have an image folder set up with some images that I can give you guys, if they'll be in the description. I just found these off pexels.com, which is a free stock image website you can just take images from. And these I found off Google, actually, as free images. So I will provide this folder to you. But yeah, let's get started with HTML. So to start off, I'm going to just get a basic HTML skeleton. So if you know anything about Emmet, just exclamation tab will give you that. The title, I'm going to call Day 1 Development. And I'm going to link my CSS file, style.css, which is accurate. So here we go. I'm also going to link a script file, even though we're not going to be using jQuery or JavaScript in this video, but oops, yeah, we'll start with that. So to get started, I'm going to break everything up into sections. To start off, we have the nav bar section, and then we have a banner section, a what to do section, a recent projects section, our team section, a numbers section, and then the contact section. So I'm going to go ahead and name these. I like to break things up into sections like this, just makes it easier to maneuver and navigate through, and easier for someone else to look at your code and see what's going on. So our team, recent projects here. This is the banner. This is our what we do. So we'll start off with the nav bar, and I'm going to use semantic HTML5 tags. So yeah, just better for SEO purposes, easier to read, and newer tags. So it's the same thing as divs, but just more appropriate to use. So we'll start off with the nav, and then in the nav we have the UL, which will just be our unordered list, and then we have five list items. So li times 5 tab will give you 5 LIs, starting with what we do. Then we have the portfolio. Then we have the about us. Then we have the blog and contact. So if we look at this, I have to refresh, I think. There we go. So there's our nav for right now. Looks good. I'm going to do all the HTML before I dive into the CSS. I'm not sure. Normally, I wouldn't even go about doing it that way. I would just I do the nav bar, then I do the CSS for it, then I do... It kind of doesn't really matter, just your preference. But I'm going to do all the HTML, and then I'm going to do all the CSS. So That's our nav bar. That's all we need for the nav bar right there. For the banner section, we will use a section element, section tab, and then in here, I'm gonna give this a class actually of banner. Could be an ID, seeing as we only have one of them, but this will work. And then in here, I'm gonna add a div with a class of logo. So period logo tab will give you a div with the class of logo, and then I'm gonna call it day one. That'll be our little box logo that we have in the banner. And then under that, we have an H1 day one development. And then we have a paragraph tag, which will say, we create beautiful websites. And that is it for the banner section. Fairly simple. So let's get into the what we do section. Oops, sorry about that. Close this. What we do, this is similar. I laid all of the sections out similar in the in the sense that they'll be easy to add CSS with Flexbox. So this will be another section with the class of service section, just like that. And then in here we have another H1 that will say what we do. And then in the service section, I'm gonna have another div that's gonna be called services, sorry. Which will hold all of our individual services. So I'm gonna have a couple more service. I'm just gonna make in the services service divs. That might be a little confusing, but yeah. So because I'm gonna flex this whole service section, and then the services will hold our each individual service. Just yeah. So, and then in each service, we will have an image, which we'll add later. We'll have an H2. This one will say, let's create direction. And then we'll have a paragraph tag with about 15 words of lorem. So lorem 15 will give you, tab will give you some dummy text. And then under that, by the way, if you're in the middle of a line, you want to skip a line, you just press Control Enter. It'll bring you down a line. We'll have a button, which will say find out more. Okay. And then I'm going to highlight all this, hold Alt and Shift, press the down arrow 2 times to duplicate the service twice. So now we have 3 of them. And I'll just keep all the text from these for the same for now. Doesn't really matter, it's just dummy text. And that is the end of the service section, so not too bad. Recent projects will be similar. We will add a section with the class of recent projects tab, and then in there we have an H1 that says recent projects, and then we're gonna have, just like the service section above, we're gonna have a projects div which will hold all of our individual projects. So in the projects div, we will make another div called project, and then in that we will have an image which will actually be the logo. So we'll get to that later. And then again, we have multiple projects. I'm going to highlight all 3 of those lines, hold Alt and Shift on Windows. I'm not sure what it is on Mac. Just mess around with some keys, you'll eventually find it. But Alt and Shift on Windows, and then the down arrow to give us some more of those. I want let's do 5 projects. And that is all of our recent project section, so not too bad. Let's get to our team. Our team, again, this is actually, it's going to be very similar. It's actually going to be the exact same. So another section with a class of team section, I guess we could call it, tab. And then in there we'll have an H1, our core team. And then under that we'll have a team div. Again, this div could be a section as well. Maybe it should be, but sorry. In the team div, we will hold each individual team member, just like we did above with all the projects and the service section. So, team div. And then I will have an H2 with the name. Let's do Michael Malkowitz. And then an H3 underneath that, which will hold his position. He is a lead designer. And under that, we'll add, I don't know, let's say 25 lines of lorem dummy text. And oops, all these are supposed to be in that team member div. So let me cut that out of there. So we have the team and the team member, and those go in there. And then again, I'm gonna highlight them all, hold Alt and Shift, and duplicate to give me some more team members. So I now have 4. I'll leave these guys the same for now, but actually I'll change the names just for fun. Let's call this guy Steve Cobalt. He's a lead developer. We have Sarah Fierce. She can be a back-end developer. Why not? And then we have Kyle Marshall. He is a front-end developer. Alright, so there's our team members, and that's it for that section as well. The numbers section, believe it or not, will be pretty much the exact same as the other sections, so we're keeping this very consistent. Section with the class of numbers section. In there, we'll have an H1 that says day 1 numbers. And then under that, we'll have a paragraph tag, which will just show the date. We're currently in October 2018. And then under that, we'll have the numbers div, which will hold all of the individual number. So yeah, in there. And then we'll just have an H1, which will be the actual number. So it's like 7. And then under that, we'll have a descriptor, which will be a paragraph tag, recent projects. And then we are going to duplicate this 4 times as well. So let's change these numbers around. 7 recent projects, 85 happy clients. Let's do 25 logos created. Why not? And then we'll do, let's say, 90 overall projects. And that is it for our number section. And then the contact section, this one is a little different, but not too different. We have a section with the contact, class of contact section. And then I'll explain this later, but I'm gonna have divs here. Oops, a few divs to hold an H1 that says get in touch and paragraph. Need a quote, leave us an email below. And then under that div, so I'm gonna break it into sections. I have the text at the top, which is in this div, because we'll get into it more with CSS. And then under that, I'm gonna have the form, which can leave the action blank for now. Matter of fact, let's just get rid of the action for now. I don't really need it right now. And in the form, we'll have a couple inputs. Input tab will give you input type text, which is what we want for the first one. I'm gonna add a placeholder name, and actually I'm gonna hold Alt Shift down arrow to duplicate that. And this one I want to be an email. Type email, placeholder email, and then under that we will have a text area. All these properties, I don't know, we'll leave them the way they are for now, but I will add a placeholder, which is enter message. So we have our input name input, our email input, our text area, and then all we need is a button, which will say send it our way. So that's the end of the form. And then we have a bottom part underneath the form, which I'm going to wrap in another div, which I'll explain once we get to the CSS. But this has an H1 of contact details, a paragraph tag of, which will be an email. Let's say like day1test.com, day1test.com, whatever, that'll work. Another paragraph with the number. Boom, and then another paragraph, which this could be a UL, but for the sake of just simplicity, I'm gonna make it a paragraph tag. And add some social media sections here. separate them with a line. That'll work. I could make it a UL and then LI elements for each one of these, and then, but it's just more complicated. I'll just keep it like that. Eventually, you'd want to add like an anchor tag around each one of these, so each one of these are clickable. But for right now, we're just gonna keep this simple and go with that. And this is literally all of our HTML. HTML is finished. So if you look at our website, save it, look at our website, this is what we have. Yeah, so hopefully you followed that. I know I went very quick there, but yeah, I hope you were able to follow that part. And we will dive into the CSS. So the CSS is going to be longer, but it's nothing too difficult, and a lot of the sections are very similar. It's just changing colors and things like that. So let's get right into it. I'm going to add some default stylings. The universal selector before, universal selector after, universal selector, and we'll do the box sizing. This just makes all the dimensions accurate to what I set them. So if I set them to like 300 pixels, it includes the padding and margins and all that in that 300 pixels. So the width will be 300 pixels no matter what. And then I'm just gonna clear out the margins on everything, clear out the padding on everything, and that'll work for us for right now. Again, I'm gonna separate everything into sections. So we have the nav section. Hold Alt Shift, down arrow, down arrow, down, 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 down. I don't know how many sections I have, something like that. The banner section. What we do. I know the bottom one's contact. Let's see what else we got here. Recent projects. Yeah, that's what we do. Right, wait, what we do. Recent projects. Our team numbers. Our team numbers. So that way everything's kind of just broken up into sections. It keeps it easier to read, keeps it easier to find things later on. Let's get to our nav section. It's pretty simple. All we want is a gray background and a small height to it. So we're just going to target the actual nav element. We're going to go nav. We'll set a height 50 pixels. A background color, I'm going to go BGC tab shortcut, and then the color is FFF0ED, like a light gray color. So now we have, or it's like a light gray pinkish color. So there's our height, looks good. And then as you can see, our UL and LI are not where we want them. So what we're going to use here for the nav is display flex. If you look immediately, nothing happens. But if we JCC for justify content center, it centers everything horizontally. So how the way Flexbox works, a brief rundown. I'm not going to get too in depth. When you flex everything, it allows positioning to be much more simple, at least for centering things and spacing things evenly or amongst themselves. Justify content. Once you have display flex, justify content will position things horizontally. And there's a few different options here. You can do center, which will obviously centered it horizontally. There's space between, space around, space evenly. These all do similar things, but they basically just space elements around themselves, which we'll use it later so you understand it more. For this, I wouldn't be able to show you because we only have one element, so there's nothing to space evenly around it. But yeah, so justify content spaces things horizontally. And then you have align items, AIC for me, align items center, that spaces things vertically. And then you have one more property, which is flex direction. There's a couple more properties, but these are the ones we're going to be using today. Flex direction, which if you set it to it's set to row by default. If you set it to column, it basically just flips these properties around. So justify content no longer positions horizontally, it would position vertically, and align items would position horizontally instead of vertically. Sorry if I confuse you, but you will definitely understand it more as we get down into these sections, and we're going to be repeating it for each one of these sections. So we're going to be pounding it into you, and hopefully you'll understand it by the end of the video. But just keep following me, and if you're confused, just keep going. Pause, rewatch. You'll definitely get it, I promise. So let's keep going. For the nav section, that's it. At least for the nav. We're gonna go into the nav UL though. Nav UL. And if you highlight over, it shows you what you're looking at. the nav and then the UL in the nav, which is exactly what we have here. And then again, notice how these are positioned on top of each other. We're gonna flex this as well. DF is shortcut for that, tab. We'll flex it, and notice it positioned them all side by side. That's what flex does, just by default. It positions everything next to each other. If I were to change the flex direction, just to show you, it's a column, it'll put it right back to the way it was. So it's set to row by default, which that's what we want. Now we're gonna go into the actual LI elements of the UL. So nav UL LI, and in here we're gonna set the list style type to none. That will get rid of the dots. List style type. And then I'm gonna add some padding. We'll do like 5 pixels top and bottom, 10 pixels left and right. So that kind of spaces things out a little bit for us. Not too bad. And then I'm gonna add margin as well. The reason I'm gonna add margin, so I'm gonna add background color really fast. You don't have to do this, but just to show you what's happening here. If I had a red background, the padding is space on the inside, so that gave us some nice space here. Give us some space around. But if I add a cursor pointer, which I'm gonna want to do anyways, let me just get rid of this margin. Cursor pointer. You'll see what I'm talking about. How everything in the nav is selectable, and I kind of want space here. I don't want you to be able to select right here and have it pick. So I'm gonna add margin, 0 top and bottom, 10 pixels left and right, and now we have that. So now here is not selectable, and yeah, that's it's just, you didn't have to add the margin. I didn't want you to have a cursor at every spot. I wanted to have a little spacing there with it. So that's pretty much that. Next we'll go TT, enter, for text transform uppercase to make everything uppercase. Then I'm going to change the color of this as well. We'll go color, let's go 333. Make it a little bit like a darker gray instead of black. And then, so I'm going to import a Google font. And I'm just going to type it in because I'm looking at it. But what you want to do is go to Google. Actually, I'll show you how I do it. Let's go Control New, Google Fonts. Click here. I'm going to use Roboto and Roboto Condense. Just click the plus on them. You click the bar right here, and then I'm going to go to Customize because I want to use the light version of all these as well as the bold version of all these. So I'm going to click Thin 100 and then Bold 700. So we have different varieties of each font. You're gonna copy, actually I'm gonna use the CSS version. What you would do with this is you'd copy this and put it in your HTML right here above your style sheet, so it'd go like right here. But for the sake of this, I'm just gonna actually use the CSS import because I don't use it often, and that is this. You click this import and you're gonna copy the import URL and you're gonna put that at the top of your CSS. The reason I want to do it here is because later on when I'm changing the font weight, I can actually look up here and see which weights I have available to me. So it just makes it easier. And with that, I'm going to change the font family of the LI elements. FF, enter. And then we're going to put in here Roboto. We'll use the condensed version. And then an alternative will be just a sans serif font. So close this and go back to our page, and there we go. It looks much better, but it's a little big for me. Let's change the font size to, I don't know, 0.8 M. I'm going to use M elements. I'm not going to really go into what M's do, although you can read it here. Scalable fonts, M units. It scales with the size of the overall font of the browser. Actually that's rem. Just Google M versus REM. They're scalable units though. Instead of using pixels, we'll just stay the same. So this font size 0.8 depends on the font size that you've used everywhere else and the default size of the browser and things like that. So it's just scalable. It's better for responsive design. But yeah, definitely Google that. I'm not gonna get go too into it here. And then I think that's it for the nav. I mean, it looks really good. Yeah, I'm good with that. Let's move on. Banner section. The banner, we have just a nice orange section, and we have a logo in the center of it. So we'll start off just targeting the banner class section, the class banner right here. Oops, and then we'll open that up. And right off the bat, I'm gonna set a height, 500 pixels, and a background color, BGC tab gives you that, of F76840. So like a pinkish color. And you're gonna see how Flexbox works here. Yeah, you're gonna see it a lot more. It's gonna be a lot more easy to see what's going on in the banner section. So notice everything's in the top left corner. If I DF enter display flex, it just positioned everything next to each other. We don't really want that. But we do want flex, so we're gonna change the flex direction back to column. So now it looks like nothing changed. But we are now able to JCC justify content center, position it center vertically. Notice again, it would have positioned it horizontally, but we switched the flex direction to column. So justify content is now vertical center, and align item center is now the horizontal. And now it's positioned perfectly in the center. And there is a logo up here, which we don't see right now. If you look, we have our div, the class of logo. Actually, this is the logo, yeah. And I'm gonna add. We're gonna start styling that next. So we'll go right underneath the banner. We'll go banner and then logo. And here we'll set, let's say 200 pixel width, height 200 pixels. And then to be able to see it, we'll set the background color to white. Let's see what that looks like. That's actually looks really good. And again, with this logo, we're gonna flex the same. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna flex it. So let's go DF enter for flex, and then if you look right away, nothing happened. Justify content center. See, notice it was horizontal because we didn't change the flex direction. AIC will do align item center, and now day one is perfectly centered in the box. Flexbox is brilliant. It's really amazing. Next, we're gonna change the font family of that. We're not gonna use the condensed, but we're gonna just copy that, get rid of the condensed there, use Roboto. Boom. Let's also change the font weight to the thick one, which is 700, our thickest font weight we picked. That changed that. And then I'm going to change the font size to like 3 Ms. Also here, I'm just kind of guessing and looking. You know, if that's too big, I'll go 2. Too small, I'll go 2.5. You kind of just guess. But I'm going to keep it at 3, actually. I kind of like the size of that. And I'm going to set the color of it to be the same as the background color of the banner. So just like that. So now we have a nice little cool box. Looks like day one's kind of cut out of it almost. And yeah, that looks pretty good. After that, I want TT, enter. I want everything to be uppercase. And I want some space between this box and this text. And there's many ways to do this. I could change the flex. I could change the align items positioning on the banner. Like for example, if I did actually we justify content because of the flex directions column. If I did like space around here, notice it gives you some space around all your elements. If I do space between here, it'll give you space between each element, no space on the outsides. And then space evenly is another option, which I kind of like. But notice it gives us too much spacing here. One way to fix that would be just to wrap these two elements in a div, which is what I did in the contact section. Matter of fact, I'll do that really fast just to show you what would happen. I wrap those in a div. Don't follow along here. Notice now those stay together. And actually, yeah, we'll keep it like that. We'll keep it like that. So basically how the flex works is we flex the banner, and it's going to take everything and space it evenly. So I have it as spaced evenly. So it's going to take this div and this div and space them evenly in the banner. That's why wrapping the H1 and the P in a div makes it like one element instead of having div, H1, and a P and spacing all three of them. It keeps these two together. So we'll just keep it that way. Yeah, so sorry, go back to your HTML, wrap these two in a div, and that's it. You don't have any classes or anything like that. The other option would be just to add like a margin bottom on this logo box. So the margin bottom, and then just keep it centered, and it would give you the same result, but this is actually a better practice. So yeah, let's keep moving. With the we want to style the H1, this. So we'll go banner, and we'll just do H1. I could go banner div H1, which would probably be the better practice, but this will work the same. I'm going to copy this font family. And actually, the smarter way to do this would just be putting this font family on the whole banner div itself. Notice if I do that, like notice this paragraph font didn't change. We'll have to go and do that separately. But if we put the font family up in the banner, it'll change it for both of them. But I'm not going to do that because I want the paragraph tag to have the regular Roboto font and the H1 to be the Roboto condensed. Sorry. So we'll just keep doing it this way. I'm going to change the font weight 400. Make it a little skinnier. Font size, let's do like 5M. I want it to be very big. That is actually not bad, I think. Let's do text transform uppercase and then color white. Okay, my keyboard is all caps now. Color white. And just for consistency, I'm gonna make this lowercase. I think honestly you probably want to use uppercase. It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna keep it consistent with all the other ones I was using. That's large, but I'm gonna keep it. Let's go to the paragraph. This part right here, the little slogan. So under the H1, another thing I like to do is notice I start with the banner. Then I go to the logo. Then I go to the H1. Then I go to the paragraph. So I'm going to keep it all like in line with the way the HTML is laid out. So banner, logo, H1, paragraph. Banner, paragraph. Here we just want the font family again. We're going to copy this. And this is bad practice. You wouldn't want to copy the font family for each individual thing when you can set it one time up in the banner and then tweak it. And a lot of these H1s that we're going to be using, like this are all gonna have the same styling, so you're not gonna want to style it the way we're doing in this video, but for the sake of simplicity and keeping things understandable, we're just gonna be like, you don't want to repeat yourself. Like if you have the same styling in one section, there's better ways to do it than repeating the code, but that's kind of more advanced, and we'll just keep it simple for this video. So the paragraph, the font family is that. The font weight, we want the skinny one. So we'll do 100. Notice again, if you forgot the weights, you can go look. Roboto, you have the 100, 400, and 700. So 100 will give us very skinny. I want text transform uppercase again. Notice I have it on all of them. So with this, I'm actually gonna fix this. Text transform uppercase and the logo, the H1, and the paragraph tag. I'm gonna fix that. Get rid of it on all the elements and add it to the actual banner, the parent section, because that'll apply it to all of its children as well. So now you see I just added it just to the banner, and it added it to everything for me. I didn't need to have that same line of code 3 times. Yeah, so the font size is way too small. Let's do 2 M's there. That's not bad. That'll work. And that's it. Let's see, what am I forgetting here? Well, I just want to center this, so I guess an easy way to do that would be TAC, text align center, and that'll center it for me. I did it a different way previously. Oh, because I centered. Anyways, that'll work. Text align center that. That's fine. So there's that, and then we just want to change the color to white as well. Which again, if you notice, I have. We'll keep it. I was gonna say getting rid of this color and putting it up here as well because we're using the same color, but then this color is different. But you know what? I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna cut that out, and then add it up to the banner. And I'll keep this color because we do want that different. And there we go. So there's our banner section. It's complete. We had a little mix-ups there. I'm sorry if you got confused, but here's our banner section. If you need to pause, here's the CSS for the banner. Here's the HTML for the banner. And it should look like this. So the next section is the creative section, the what we do section. So let's get into it. Right away, we're gonna do a similar thing that we did with the banner. As far as, let's just make the service section. We're gonna display flex, which if we save breaks everything. I mean, kind of, but we're gonna change the flex direction to column. So now it looks the same, but we are able to use justify content and align items. So I want to use align items, center to center the text, and I want to justify content. I'm gonna space it evenly, which does nothing yet, but once we add a height to our service section, let's say 600 pixels, it just centers, gives even space amongst all the elements here. So that looks good. Then the next thing we want to do is target the server. Well, I guess we'll keep in order like I was doing. So we'll start with the service section, then we'll go to the H1. So let's go service section H1, and all we want to do is basically this. We want the font family Roboto condensed. We want the font weight to be 400. We want the font size to be 2. And then we want TT, enter, text transform uppercase. Just like that. So that looks good to me. Next, we want these to be positioned side by side. So the easiest way, you guessed it, would be to flex the services div, because the services div holds each individual service. So if we flex this div, it will position all these side by side by default. Services, df, enter, display flex, done. And then what I'm gonna do is that's it for right now, but I'm gonna come back to services in a second. Now we'll target the individual service, each individual service. All I want to do here is at a width of 20%. So it kind of chops them down, cuts the width of these to 20%. And it's 20% of, yeah, it's hard to, it's just 20% of the overall services. So let's pretend like anyway, so let's go back to the services. And if I add justify content space evenly, JCSE, tab, it doesn't have evenly, unfortunately, that is around evenly, that will give you even space in between each of these. So if you look at the 100% of the width of the page, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, it's 100%, 20, 40, 60, maybe 70, 80, 90, 100, 10% here. So 10, 20, 10, 20. So if I change it, that's what this 20% is. So sorry to confuse you before, but that's what this 20% is. If I were to go like 30%, then you guessed it, it's like 30%, 30, 60, 90, 5, But yeah, we'll keep it 20. All right, so that looks pretty good. Next, we'll target these tags in the service. So let's start off with, we actually have images too. So I'm gonna apply the images first. These images, by the way, I provided in the description below. You can find your own images on Pexels, PEXELS.com. It's a free image website. So I'm just gonna add those in, and I'm gonna go, since I'm on the root level, I'm gonna go into the image folder, and then I'm gonna click service 1. I'm gonna do the same thing for this one, image folder, service 2, image folder, service 3. And if you look at it, it looks horrible. So let's start off with the service image, since that is the first thing in the service div, service image. And what we're going to do is set the width to be 100%. The reason this works is because it's setting the width of the image to 100% of its parent, which the parent, as we've seen, is 20%. So it sets the width to 100% of its parent element. The heights are off because they're all different. They all have different height. So I'm just going to set a fixed height to this. This is probably not the best way to do it because it stretches certain images, shrinks other ones. But for the sake of this video, that's what we're doing. And then all I'm going to do is add a border around this to make it look a little better. Black, solid 3 pixel border. And yeah, I mean, maybe it doesn't look better. It's kind of ugly, but we're going to leave it like that for right now. Then we're going to go to this H2. So we did the image. We'll go to the H2. Service H2. And here we're going to set, again, the font family to Roboto condensed. Actually, I'm going to copy all of these. I want the font weight to be 400 and text transform uppercase. And yeah, there you go. Maybe I want this to be 2 as well. Well, 2 is the size of this, so let's see what it looks like. Maybe it's too big, right? Did it even do anything? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong. Sorry, guys. I'm looking at it up here. It's this font right here. Yeah, we don't want it that big. Let's see what happens if we don't add it. That's actually not bad. I'm just gonna leave it like that for now. So for the H2, I'm going to TAC enter text align center the text, and I'm gonna add some margin on the top and bottom here to give some space. So let's just do margin 10 pixels top and bottom, and then 0 on the left and right. We'll give you 10 pixels on top and bottom, and that looks pretty good for the H2. So next is the paragraph here. So service paragraph. And here, and again, this is terrible practice, but I'm going to take these two because I want the same font for these two. And actually, again, I'm going to move this up into the service and get rid of them from here because it's just bad practice. Notice nothing changes because actually it did change, didn't it? Let's see what happens if I put. That's weird. So we'll keep the font weight there anyways, but we want the same font family, so either way. And the only thing wrong with this is, I guess, line height. Maybe the font size looks too big. Let's say line height 25 pixels. Give a little spacing in between the lines there. And I do want to add a text align TAJ justify, which will give you even. It just justifies the, instead of text align center, it's like Word. You have text center, left, right, and then justify, which is like square. So we'll do that. And we need to mess with the button next. That's the last thing in the service. Service button. We want the background color, so BGC, to be F76840. It's the same pink color from above. Yeah, it's like the padding. 10 pixels top and bottom, 20 pixels on the sides. 10 top and bottom, 20 on the sides. Gives you a nice little look there. And the text we want to be white. And we also want it to be uppercase, TT. And that looks good. We want some space on the top. Marge top, 20 pixels. To give you some space in between there. This border looks very ugly. I might just keep it though. Otherwise it'd be border none. I'm gonna keep it. I don't know why. but you can change that border if you want. Maybe I should go like border 1 pick solid black or something like that. I'm gonna keep it default. It kind of looks ugly, but you know, you can do what you want with that. And I believe that's it for the service section. What we do, it's pretty simple. Again, in the later videos, we're gonna be adding animations to this, hovers, you know, maybe whatever. We'll add some other stuff later on, but we're gonna keep it simple for this. Let's go to the recent project section. All this stuff right here. I'm gonna add these images in first. So go to the image folder and then work, image folder, work 2, image folder, work 3, image folder, work 4, image folder, work 5. There's that. Let's target first off our recent project section, very top level. And in here, we're gonna do similar to what we did in this section. So right now, this is looks very bad. But let's start off by giving it a height, 600 pixels. Okay, looks a little better, you know. Change the background color, BGC, and then we'll use 24201F. So it's like a dark gray color. So that's nice. We have a nice little section now. And then right away, same as all the other sections, DF for display flex. And if you save that, it looks bad still, but we're also going to change the flex direction to column. Still looks terrible. And then just justify content. We're gonna do space evenly, which just does nothing right now. Evenly. Oh, we're gonna come back to it, and then AIC for align item center, which is the same thing we did for these sections. Let's fix these images because they're atrocious. I'm gonna do that first. So that is in the project div image. And this is, notice I'm going out of order here, but I just want to fix this image, so it doesn't look so bad, so we can at least, you know, have a viewable, like, so we can see what we're doing instead of having it look terrible. So height 150 pixels, and that looks a lot better. So okay, let's go back up. Let's go to the recent projects H1. So recent projects H1, and we want this recent projects to be the same as what we do. We're gonna keep this consistently all the way through the project, so we can literally just take this. And this is what I was saying earlier, you don't want to copy, like, there's better ways to do this. Maybe I would just set all H1s by default to be this style and only have to write it one time, instead of having to do it every single time like this. But for the sake of this video, like I said, we're just gonna go ahead and not do that way. One thing I'm gonna change though is the color, make it white. So there we go. Next, it still looks broken, I understand. And the way to fix that, so we have recent projects, this is all set up, the H1's all set up. Let's go into the projects. We're gonna display flex that, and that will fix everything. So notice if we get rid of that, everything is positioned this way and it's breaking everything. Once you position everything horizontally, and this div positions all these horizontally, similar to what we did on the other sections, very similar, it fixes everything. So yeah, so that's a lot better. Let's keep working on this though, and let's JCC, justify content center, which everything, actually we don't even need this, but we'll keep it. And we want, let's set a width about 800 pixels on this, and then we'll add flex wrap with wrap, which at this point, yeah, as you can see, it just wraps if the width of your elements goes over the actual width of what it is, it will wrap to the next line. So yeah, this will make sense in 1 second. Once we had the, now we go into the, we did the projects, we'll go into this project div. Now it'll make sense. Project, width 200 pixels, height 200 pixels, background color, we're gonna use 636363. It's a lighter gray. And now you can see where if we got rid of flex wrap up here, it positions everything next to each other, but it just makes them skinnier. So we want to keep their actual width and height, and then if they get over, just wrap and go to the next line. So now they stay. Notice in here, the elements aren't, the images aren't positioned center in the box. If we've talked about anything in this video, you know the best way to do that is flex, and then JCC, AIC, and there you go. Everything's centered. And that is it. Only thing I want to do is add some spacing here. So on the project div, we'll add 10 pixel margin all the way around. And there we go. That looks much better. And notice the second one wrapped then because it was too long and it wrapped again. If we got rid of the wrap, just show you one more time. It all fits on one line, but it just shrinks. And we don't want that. So there we go. Recent project section, done. Again, if I comment out this justify content on the recent projects, yeah, that's what that does. Gives you even space amongst all the elements. Just kind of trying to recap a little bit of what we were doing there. But anyways, that's that section complete. Let's work on the our core team, our team section. And again, it's going to be very similar to what we just did with targeting the team section first. Flex, which nothing happened. Flex direction column, back to the way it looked before, but now we have access to the flex properties. First, I'm going to set a height, 500 pixels. And then we're going to do the same thing we did above. Justify content, space evenly, and align item center. So again, that positions everything evenly on the vertical side and centers everything on the horizontal side. Then we want to flex this section so it positions them next to each other as we did before, and that is in the actual team div. So well, first let's do the H1. Sorry, let's keep everything as we're going. So team section H1 next. Oops, H1. And in here, again, it's this exact styling minus the color white. So there's that. Again, before that, it was garbage. Oops. So there's that again. And then we'll go on to the team div. So team df. There you go. Position everything next to each other. It looks way better. And I want the width to only be about 75% of the page. I don't want it to take up the whole width. So now it's 75% centered again because we align items center. If I got rid of that, as you see, just trying to help visualize things for you guys. And that's it. I could add on my demo. I have this. We don't need that though. It's done up in the team section. So there we go. Now we're gonna go into each individual team member. So we did the team. And actually, one more thing before I want to add some spacing. So I'm gonna add margin on why I'm gonna leave that out as well. Sorry. Let's go down to the team member. Maybe that'll make sense later. Team member. This is each individual section here. And what we want to do here is Oh, that's, yeah. Here we want to add margin. Nothing on the top and bottom, and then 20 pixels on the left and right. So that gives us some spacing. If you look, that gives you some, let's see if I can do it. Team section, team member. See the margin on the left and right there? Gives you a little spacing. Maybe I'll go more, 25. Yeah, looks good to me. And we want this font. And actually, yeah, it should be automatically applying, but since it's not, we'll apply it to the team member, so it applies it to all these. So now all the fonts changed. Looks good. And that looks good. Let's go on to the team member H2. Member H2. I want the font weight 400. A little bit skinnier. Looks good. Text transform uppercase. I'm gonna actually add this to up here, the team member, so everything is uppercase, because I want this to be uppercase too, and then this one I'll just put back to not uppercase. So the font weight on the H2 looks good, and maybe I'll change the font size. Actually, I'll change the font size. Let's see. Oops. On the H2 to like 1.3 M here. It's still too small. Yeah, that looks good. 1.5. The H3 is next. Member H3. And this is gonna be similar, but we're gonna set this font weight to be the skinniest font we have, so it's even skinnier. And I think the font size actually looks good. But we'll add a margin of 5 pixels on top and bottom only to give us some space in between there. So that looks good. Let's go into the paragraph, the last section here. Team member paragraph, and we're gonna change the font family from the condensed to the regular, just to add some diversification here. It doesn't really, I mean, you can add this part or not. It's way too thick right now though, so I'll add the medium weight to that. Font weight 400, or was it already 400? Maybe it's, let's see what that looks like. If we go text transform initial, let's see if I can do it. Initial, I believe. Now what is, I guess we'll just do lower. Let's see, what's the property? I could just do lowercase here. But we don't want lowercase. We want, I believe it was initial. Yeah, initial. We'll give you just what it was initially, basically. Default. So the capital L, basically. And that is too skinny, so let's do 400 here. That looks good. But maybe we'll change the font size. 0.9 or so M's. Yeah, I like that a lot. That looks really good, actually. So that's it for our team section. There's nice even spacing between each element here. So it looks good. Let's go to the numbers section. We're getting there. We're getting close. We're getting close, guys. Numbers. This section, as you guessed it, is similar. We laid them all out very similar, just so it's repetition of this flexbox and get you used to doing things in flexbox, I guess, in a similar way. Just trying to help you learn. In this section, again, we'll start off with the top level numbers section. And right away, we're going to add a background, BGC, of EA3628. It's like a darker orange color. It's a little bit different than this color up here, but it just looks cool. It looks good with the white and the black and everything, so run with that. I'm going to set a height of like 300 pixels, so we get the height we want there. And then I'm going to go right into it, df display flex, and then change the flex direction column. And then I'm going to justify content, center, so that positions everything centered, and then vertically, and then we'll do AIC for the horizontal. So there we go. And we want the font, we want all the colors to be white. So that changes all the colors to white. And that is it for the numbers section. We could add the font family up here, but again, I'm going to be using different fonts for the H1 and the paragraph, so I'm just going to do it separate. But if you were to go back and refactor your code, you want to add a lot of things to the parent section, so you don't have to write the same line multiple times. But again, for the sake of this video, we'll just keep going here. Let's start off with the H1 number section. H1, this first guy up here, and that we want to be the same as all the other ones. So take that same styling, paste it in there. 400 uppercase, 2em, save, and there we go. Same as everything else. So that's it for the H1. Then we'll go to the P right underneath it. Text or numbers section P. And this will have, we're gonna use the fatter Roboto font. So we'll just get rid of condensed here. See what that looks like. Okay, let's make it the skinny version. I like that. And then give it some margin, some spacing in between here. Maybe like 10 pixels or something. Margin 10 pixels top, bottom. And notice it pushed this above, but once we flex this section to put them horizontally, it'll give us our space back. So let's go ahead and do that. That is the numbers div, which will flex to, again, position all of these next to each other. So we'll go into the numbers div, df, display flex, boom, there we go. And then I'm gonna set the width to about 50% of the page. So let's see if I can see what this looks like. Numbers section, the numbers is 50%. So if I centered that, justify content center, I'm gonna show you what it looks like. JCC center, it'll center it. Makes sense, right? Boom, now it's centered. I'm gonna show you space around. Gives you a little bit of space on each side and some space in between. Then you have space between. I know I kind of covered this a little bit earlier, but I just want to show you again. Space between has no space on the sides, but gives you space all in between. Makes sense. And then space evenly is what we're going to use here, which is even amount of space on each side and in between. And it just looks, I just like using that one the most, so we'll go with that. And that's it for the numbers div. Now let's go into the number, each individual number, right? Number. And I'm going to, first I'm going to change the font family to this font. Matter of fact, is it already? I think it is, so ignore that. But we're gonna add, we're gonna TAC, text align center, that to center each individual number. And we're gonna add a margin, 20 pixels all the way around. What that did is, yep, just like you see, 20 pixels all the way around. Which honestly, is it necessary? Let's see what it looks like without it. Maybe not, but for the sake of this, yeah, we'll just keep it. Then inside that number div, we have the H1, which is the actual number. So here we're going to be actually changing the number. We just want to change the font size of it, basically. Number H1. And what we're going to do actually is add a border bottom first of 2 pixel solid white. That gives you that line there. It's just a border bottom on the number, or on the actual H1. Cool. Let's keep moving. Let's add, I'm gonna add a margin bottom as well, 10 pixels. So that just gives us some more spacing underneath the border there. And then we're gonna change the font size to like 3 Ms. We want it to be big here. That looks really good. All right. Let's go into the paragraph tag, this right here, which is these guys underneath the H1. So you guessed it, number P. And all we're gonna do is font weight 100. Actually, is it already skinny too? Yeah, we don't need to even add that. Keep that out of there. The font size 0.9. Make it a little bit smaller. I like that. And TT, enter for text transform uppercase. I think it looks good, uppercase. You can leave it lowercase if you want it. You don't have to add that. But I like it that way. So that's that. That's that section. Our last section is the contact form. This one's a little bit more in depth, but not really. Not really. So let's get into that. The contact section. Start off at the top with this guy. The overall container. Contact section. First off, we're going to add a background. Color of white. Or black, sorry. And a color of white. There you go. I'm also going to add this font family to everything. So if you apply it to the parent section, it applies it all the way down as well. So there you go. Everything is Roboto condensed. I'm going to do the same thing with uppercase. I want everything to be uppercase. And I want to add a height of 800 pixels. So there you go. There's our whole section. And then again, DF flex puts it all horizontal. Flex direction column puts it right back to the way it was. And we're going to justify content space evenly like we've been doing. Which again, because we changed the direction, flex direction, justify content no longer does horizontal, it does vertical. So now look, we have even spacing between every element here, which looks terrible right now, but once we align items in the center, it looks a lot better. One more thing I'm going to do in the context section is if I text align center, that will align all the text in the center. So now we have a decent looking context form. The form, it just looks terrible. So, but first we're just going to keep going down the ladder like we have been doing. Context section, we'll do the H1 next, which it's pretty close, but we want this get in touch to be the same as this, like we've been doing the whole time. So contact section, H1, and we have the font family already. We want the font weight 400, although I don't know if that, yeah, 400 makes it a little bit skinnier. We want text transform uppercase, which actually, wait, we already did that up here, so that's already done as well. And we just want to change the font size then to 2M, which matches the other font size of all the other ones. So there you go. And then notice that changed this H1 as well, because that is also an H1 in the context section. So it changed that as well, which is perfect. We want that changed as well. Okay, so that's it for the H1. Let's go to the paragraph right underneath. Context section P. Okay, we don't want it uppercase, so I'm gonna go back to initial like I did earlier. Put it back to what it was default, which looks pretty good. Let's do font weight 300. Make it a little bit skinnier. Yeah. And I'm gonna add some spacing above and below here to separate these two a little bit. So margin, I'll do top, bottom 10 pixels, and then 0 on the left and right. There you go. That's it for the paragraph, and actually that did it for these paragraphs too, so that looks good. All we have to change is the form. So yep, that did all these paragraphs as well. So now we're on the form. Let's go contact section form. Right away, I'm going to display flex. Positions everything next to each other. We don't want that. We want flex direction column. And notice the difference now. Everything is lined up like the same width, which it wasn't before. So that's what flex also helps with. It positions everything like the same width. And I'm actually going to give a width to this because I don't want it to be that short, shallow, I guess you call it. I want it to be a little wider. There you go. Looks good. And after that, I'm gonna give padding and margin to all these input forms and the button. I'm gonna do it to the same. I want the same styling on all of these. So the easiest way for me to do this would be, seeing as we have inputs and text areas and buttons, and I want them to all have the same styling. I'm just gonna go contact section form. No, contact section. I could do form actually. I'll do form. Input, comma, contact section form text area, comma, contact section form button. That way all the styling I put here will be applied to all four of these. So I don't have to type the same thing multiple times, which is what I could have been doing previous, but yeah, anyways. So all we want to do here though is add a margin on the top and bottom and nothing on the sides. That gives us some spacing there. And then we want padding as well, 10 pixels on all sides, top, bottom, left, and right, to give us some spacing on the inside. So padding again is spacing on the inside, margin is spacing on the outside, just for like a reference. So all the inputs look pretty good. Even the button looks pretty good. We just want to change the color of the button. So I will put that right here, contact section button, just a button. I guess again I could go contact section form button, just be more precise because it is in the form. So background color, I want it to be 7CC576. It's like a greenish color. Kind of is a nice contrast to this red and black and white. It looks really good. I am gonna get rid of the border on this. Actually, I'm gonna add that border none to all of them. I don't want any border on any of them because it just looks ugly. So there it gets rid of all the border on all of our form. I want the color of the button text to be white. So again, color white, just like that. I want it all uppercase. Text transform uppercase, like that. Let's do a font size 1.2M. Make it, oh, that's too big for me. I don't like that. I'll do 1 maybe. I'll just leave it. I'll leave it at none. I liked what it was, honestly. Maybe a little bit bigger. Sorry, font size 0.9M. What are we at here? Let's see. Yeah, let's go 1.1. Why is it so big? 1. That looks good. And I'm gonna change. I'm not sure what font. Let's see. I want to change the font to the condensed. Yeah, there we go. I like that a lot better. And honestly, there we go. That's it. That's the CSS. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have something similar to this on your screen right now. You know, I know I went fast, but like I said, you know, I didn't go over anything too crazy, so hopefully you were able to just pause and kind of rewind and see what I did, and you know, hopefully you have something similar to this. Another thing is, you know, there's a million ways to do a layout like this. I just showed you the way I would do it. I don't know necessarily if it's like the right way or if there is even a right way, but yeah, this is how I would go about coding a homepage like this, and just how I would use certain elements like Flexbox and things like that. So again, I hope you guys learned something, and stay tuned for the next video in the series where we talk about responsive design, and we definitely make it look good on a mobile device because that's very important in 2018, let's be honest. But yeah, again, if you liked the video, drop a like, drop a subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know what I did well, what I didn't do well, what you'd like to see in the future. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.